All right, Engwe has just released the M20, which is now available on their website for sale. Now, if you go to their website, we're going to leave a link in the description. You can actually sign up to win one of 10 of their new M20 bikes. This thing is really cool. I love this green teal color. It actually comes in 3 colors. It'll also have a black, white, and of course this green style. Right now this bike is currently $12.99, and then you've got the dual battery option, which is actually $15.99, but they've got an early bird special in which the bike is $150 off either option. So if you get the bike early, you can get the bike for $11.49 for the single battery option, or $14.49. So it's a great deal. We should go ahead and go to the Engwe website and sign up for that. I think you can also sign up for $50 off any Engwe bike purchase that you make. So back to the M20. Let's go ahead and get this unboxed and assembled. We'll take a look at that, and then we're going to move on to talking about the specs and features of this bike, and then we're going to take it for a test ride and check it out. So as we unbox the M20 here, we'll see that it is very well packaged. You know, everything was covered with foam and zip ties, of course. It's kind of normal to see that, but it was very well protected. And the assembly process itself was actually very easy as well. This is kind of normal to see that, you know, the front wheel has to be assembled, the pedals have to be put on, and the front headlights have to be assembled. The dual battery option was separate, so we have to do that a little later. I think probably the hardest part of the assembly of this whole bike was probably doing this cool dual headlight assembly. It was just kind of awkward. It wasn't hard. It was just a little awkward to get that assembled, but no big deal. And we had to put the front fender on too. So the overall assembly was probably about 30 minutes on this bike, but it was not bad at all. But now that we've got it assembled, let's go ahead and take it out for a ride. Alright, so now we get to take it for a little ride, you know, and it seems like the first thing that everyone wants to know is how far will it go and how fast it'll go. So I'm not sure. We'll see how fast it'll go. Let's try throttle only first. You know, it's not like super powerful. You see, it's like not taking off super fast, but I am full throttle right now. We're up to 18, 19 miles an hour. It just hit 20. And it doesn't seem to be getting much over 20. And I am going up a slight incline here under the tunnel, but I've got it up to around 22 throttle only, so it's not super fast throttle only. And I was trying to do it earlier with just pedals, and I was freewheeling or free pedaling. I guess my legs were just kind of free spinning around 17 miles an hour in 7th gear. Well, I thought I was in 7th gear, but the derailleur guard was hitting the derailleur, not letting it shift all the way over. I'll show you that a little later. So now we'll see how fast we can go with pedal power. We're pedal assist 5, of course, and we are in the highest gear, number 7. Slow down for doggo. Alright, here we go. Alright, I've got pedal. My legs are, I'm still putting power into it at 20 miles an hour, so I'm not completely freewheeling. 22 miles an hour is about as fast as my legs can comfortably pedal and help the bike along. I could probably go faster. 23. Okay, yeah. I'm pedaling really hard. Pedal assist kind of quits at 20, so I'm not sure if there's something in the settings that we can change, but as of right now, throttle, I can only get it up to 20, and pedal assist I can do about 22. So that's about all we're going to get as far as speed out of this bike. You know, I'm kind of on a paved trail at the moment. I've done a little bit of off-road with the bike so far, and the suspension is actually surprising for what it is. It's not like a super plush or super high-end type suspension, but for some reason the geometry works good on this bike as opposed to other bikes I've ridden like this. So the front forks, they do have an adjustment on them. I haven't played with that much, but the front feels good to me and the rear does too. I feel a little big on this bike. You know, I'm 6'1", 220 pounds, and I'm sitting a little low, so my knees are coming up pretty high when pedaling this bike. It's not uncomfortable by no means, but I just feel a little big for it. So, you know, if you're any taller than 6'1", you know, 6'2", 6'3", it might start looking funny or even feeling funny, but for me, it's not that bad at all. The handling on it feels really good with this style handlebar. It's not as narrow as some of the other bikes I've ridden as well. Some of the folding bikes. This is more of kind of a BMX style handlebar, and it just feels really good as far as just hanging to the trail, turning and leaning. I've got about 15, maybe 16 PSI in these big 20x4 tires. When I know I'm doing paved paths, I tend to go a little higher on that pressure, around that 16 PSI, but usually I would be a little lower than that if I know I was going to do off-road in the sand or dirt. Let's take it off a little curb here. Not terrible. So again, like I mentioned, is it this 750 watt motor. Let's see, so okay, I wasn't moving. I had my finger just barely on the brake. The cutoff on the brake is really sensitive. But again, the 750 watt motor says it'll peak at 1,000. I mean, it gets going. It's not super powerful, but it's I think it's really good for this bike. The power, like I said, it just feels normal. It's not exceptional, but it is cool, man. Everywhere I go, people stop me to look at this bike and ask questions about it, and I'm like, well, check it out. Engwe's website, it is currently available for sale. So we'll take a second, kind of get familiar with the controls here. The display is kind of just a backlit, kind of like an LCD screen. It's easy to see during the daytime, but it's not like super bright. It's not bad. You have the power button on top, and then we can set our pedal assist down here on the bottom. On the left, we got a little push button for the headlights. That turns the headlights on bright and on low. The headlights have two stages. And We got a little horn button, and then of course our shifter. And then over here we have a full throttle, not a half throttle or a thumb throttle. This is a full throttle like on a motorcycle. All right, here we go again. All right. Well, that was a fun ride. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the specs and features on this bike. So I think one of the first things we're going to notice is this dual headlight. That's, I believe that's on bright right now. We can turn them down. Yeah, so that's on low, and then they got a bright option. Very bright lights, and it also does have a tail light. It comes on with the bright lights for some reason. Maybe the other side is just a running light, and we have to actually turn the lights on. So maybe it's not a high-low, it's either an on-off, but it does have a daytime running light maybe, and it does have a brake light on that. So no turn signal, but it does have the brake light there. Let's go ahead and take a look at the motor here. We do have a 750 watt geared hub motor that peaks at 1,000 watts. It's about right for this bike. Again, I didn't find it to be super powerful, but it did work good. We've got our tourney derailleur here. This is a Shimano, and this is what I was talking about earlier. The guard here for the derailleur was just kind of hitting on it and wouldn't allow it to shift in that highest gear there. So I just kind of bent that out a little bit and got it working. So the pedal assist did work better after we got that figured out. Cool little M20 logo here. I really like that. Here's our middle suspension or the middle shock, I guess, for the rear suspension. It kind of pivots back here on the center of the frame right behind the cranks. It does have a big front chainring, and it does have this outside guard over the chainring, which I like. Kind of your standard style pedals. We do have 13 amp hour battery, and of course these are both 13 amp hour batteries, so you'll get up to 26 amp hour with both batteries. They're saying up to 40 miles, I think 45 miles per battery. Again, that's kind of subjective. When someone asks me how far a bike can go, that really depends on riding style and conditions. But I would imagine that with the dual battery option, you should easily be able to get 60 miles out of this bike riding normally, is what I usually find. I've also noticed that we are riding on these big 20x4 Chow Yang tires. They feel pretty good. They're decent. They got good tread. They handle very well, and we can see that it is on mag rims. I like mag rims on these style bikes, electric bikes, because they are heavier. They do send more torque to the rear, and it's just less maintenance than regular spokes would be. We do have front suspension, of course, that we can adjust the preload right here, and they feel pretty good. One thing I like to check is I like to hit the brakes, and I like to see if there's any play in between the front rod here where it goes into the fork tube itself. If there's play in there, you kind of know that it's not like a high-end fork, but I don't feel really hardly any play in this, so it feels like a good style fork to me. It actually is, I would say, a higher end than some of the other bikes that I've ridden. This one feels really good. Coming around to the brakes, what we'll see is does not have hydraulic brakes. So this is cable brakes, but they are disc brakes, and I believe these are 160 millimeter. Yes, they are 160 millimeter brake rotors. So one thing about this bike is it does not stop very well. I wish they would have just spent a little more money. I would have personally rather paid a little more money for the bike to have hydraulic brakes and maybe a 180 millimeter rotor. But again, this isn't a super fast bike. They are claiming that top speed on this is around 24 miles an hour, and that's pretty consistent with what I found in the ride test. You know, I could get up to about 23. If I pushed it a little harder, I could probably get to 24. But you know, we got to know that with dual batteries and the speed, this is a heavy bike, and the brakes are important. And I'm a bigger guy too, so that I've got to take that into account. At 220 pounds plus the weight of the bike, it's kind of hard to stop all this, and they are a little noisy too. So I really wish we could have had hydraulic brakes on that, but the brakes, they do work, but it is a little harder for me to stop this bike. Nice metal fenders, a little loud when we're kind of riding through rocks. They kind of get slung up in there, but they're going to be durable and they look good. Again, taking a look at this color here, Explore a New Way. Such a good looking bike. We are using a cadence sensor on this, not a torque sensor, so it just knows if you're pedaling the bike. It doesn't really feel the torque that you're putting into it, which is kind of normal for bikes in this price range. It's got a neat little adjustable kickstand for it, and looking at the rear brakes here, which are also mechanical rear disc brakes. And taking a look at the fender, it's a metal fender on the rear as well. Decent little saddle, and it's actually pretty comfortable. It doesn't look real thick, not too big, but it is comfortable for me for the amount of time that I've ridden it so far. No place really to put any pannier bags or any storage as far as racks. And even on the front of the bike, there's not really a boss or anything where we can bolt a rack to it. You know, we could probably put a rack on the front or something if need be. So not much storage on this bike, but that's not really the style of it. That's not what it was designed for. Anybody that has seen this bike and taken it for a test drive has really enjoyed it. They love the style, the look, the color, the feel of this bike. One thing that I do want to mention is that, you know, for me, I ride a lot of bikes, so I'm really comfortable riding electric bikes. But a couple people that has ridden this bike has noticed that this full throttle handle here, this is a full handle throttle, so that when you turn it, it'll take off on you when you got it set to anything above 0. So anything 1 through 5, you turn the throttle and it's going to go. So a couple of the new riders that aren't very experienced with this style bike said they did not like the full throttle. They like either the half throttle or like the thumb throttle that you see on some of the other bikes. So they test drove several of the bikes I have, and a lot of them mentioned they were concerned about this. Again, the Shimano 7-speed shifter, kind of your entry-level shifter. It is reliable and it does work good. But overall, this is a fun bike to ride. It looks amazing. So be sure to consider this bike maybe for your next purchase. If you're looking at this style bike, this is definitely one of the top contenders in that price range. So don't forget, make sure you go to the Engwe website. All the links will be in the description of this video. We will have an affiliate link where you can purchase this bike through our affiliate link. No extra cost to you, but we would get a small commission off that sale, and I would really appreciate that. It helps us continue to do these bike reviews. Also, don't forget to make sure you sign up to win one of these e-bikes. They got 10 that they are giving away for free, so make sure you sign up for that. And don't forget about the early bird special where you can get $150 off either option. I would highly recommend the dual battery option. If you don't get the dual battery option, it does have a nice carbon fiber style case that goes right here in place of this battery. So it still looks really good either way. There is something to kind of fill this void, and you can kind of open it up, put your cell phone keys, whatever you want to store in there. So any questions on this bike or anything that I missed, please let me know. Thanks for watching.